Hello everyone, welcome to 5.2 day 2. This is my low tech solution to all this. I'm just holding my camera above some paper here. If you remember before all this happened, we were trying to simplify these trig identities. We're trying to make this left side look like the right side, and there's a couple different ways we can do it. We can try to simplify this side to make it look like this. We could try to simplify the right side to make it look like this, or we could possibly simplify both sides at the same time. It's really up to us. What we want to do is show the steps over here so then I know exactly what you're plugging in. Make it easier for me to understand what you're doing. What you will need today is your treasure map. So I know this is my treasure map because I have the buried treasure right there. You won't use it a ton. Today it's mainly dealing with fractions and how do we simplify those fractions. So let's go ahead and try this one right here. If you need to, pause your video, write this down really quick, and then hit play. All right, so the first thing that I'm seeing is a cotangent and a tangent. Now we know we could try to change these into sines and cosines. Since they're already cotangent and tangent, I'm thinking I'll just change this one into a tangent, maybe this one into a tangent also. There's a 1 over tangent. And that might be a little bit easier than sines and cosines running around. So the first thing I'm going to do is just change that into 1 over tangent. So this would be 1 over tangent now. And we could change that one too as 1 over tangent. I don't know if it'll help. We'll see. It might cut down one step. You can do it if you want. Up to you. Now, what we want to do is try to simplify this to make it into cotangent or 1 over tangent. Right now, I don't really see anything. I could try to change it as some sines and cosines. What we actually need to do, though, is right here, this needs to have a common denominator. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this over 1. And you're just going to multiply the top and bottom by tangent. So then that would give us 1 over tangent for the left side. And then this right here is just going to be minus tangent over tangent. Just multiply the top and bottom like you would do with normal fractions. This bottom doesn't change at all, 1 minus tangent. If you want, you can change that. I guess I'll go ahead and change that one into 1 over tangent. It's really up to you. All right, since we have a common denominator, we can go ahead and make it into a single fraction now. So this would be 1 minus tangent over tangent over. You might want to make sure that you make this one the bigger division bar. It'll kind of keep yourself straight as which one is on top and which one is on the bottom. This lets me know that this part was on the top. If you make them all the same size, then you kind of run into some issues of knowing what's what. Okay, and then if you remember back to like 6th grade, something like that, when you're dividing some fractions, I'm going to put that over 1 to make it a fraction. When you're dividing fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal, or you all like to say keep, switch, flip. So I'm going to keep that first one the same. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. That just means I'm going to flip that one around. Okay, and then hopefully you can kind of see something that would happen. Since we're multiplying, this top part can cancel out with that bottom part because they're exactly the same. And we're going to wind up with 1 over tangent is 1 over tangent. Now, if you wouldn't have switched up here, if you would have left this as a cotangent, then down here you would have had to change this into a cotangent. You would have had to do one extra step. Okay, next one, go ahead and pause the video, write this one down really quick. All right, so on this one, again, I'm trying to find common denominators. So what we can do, I don't really see anything that I can change. Like I could change that one into 1 over sine if I really wanted to. So cosecant is 1 over sine. That might save us some time, I don't really know. What we want to do, though, is we want to create a common denominator. Well, if you remember back to when you're adding and subtracting fractions, sometimes you just have to multiply this side by whatever's over here and multiply this side by whatever's over here. So that's what I'm going to do. This side I'm going to multiply by 1 plus cosine, and this one by sine. All right, so then that would give me, if I multiply these two together, you have to actually use FOIL. So 1 times 1 is 1, plus cosine theta plus cosine theta. That would be 2 cosine thetas. And then cosine times cosine would be cosine squared. So it'll be one fraction now, since they'll have the same denominators. It'll be sine and 1 plus cosine. Over on this one, we multiplied it by sine, so sine times sine is sine squared. And then, since I looked at my treasure map and I said cosecant 1 over sine, I'm going to go ahead and replace that. All right, looking at the treasure map again, before I do that, I got a joke for you. What is a pirate's favorite letter? And you're probably saying, oh man, I know this one, it's R. And then that's what I'm supposed to say, no, 'tis the C. And that's gonna be our watch code today, 'tis the C. Make sure that you email that to me so you get some credit for watching this. Back to the treasure map though. If we look at this, sine squared plus cosine squared, that should be one that we know. That's one of the most important ones. So sine squared plus cosine squared is actually 1. That's one, especially if you're going into calculus, I want you to memorize that one, because that's the one that you're going to use the most. Really, that's the only one that you're going to use in calculus. Okay, so I'm wanting this to look like this. Well, I see the signs are the same, so I know I don't need to do anything with that. I also don't want to distribute that inside, because if you do that, then it's going to be a lot harder for stuff to cancel out. Right now, stuff could, since it's a multiplication in between here. So somehow I want that 1 plus cosine to go away. Easiest way would be to simplify the top. That would probably be a good idea. All right, I want this to go away. Well, if I look, this is very close to it. The only thing that I would need to do is I just need to factor out a 2. So that's what I'm going to do up top. When you factor out that 2, you'd wind up with 1 plus cosine of theta. Just divide each of those by 2. And then, there we go. Those are going to cancel each other out. We're left with 2 over sine theta is 2 over sine theta. And we are finished. All right, one more. All right, so again, we have some fractions. Well, this one doesn't look like a fraction because it's just a whole number. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to put that over 1. What I want to do is create a common denominator again. So what I'm going to do, well, this one doesn't need any, like it doesn't need the 1, because if you multiply by 1, it's going to stay the same. This one you need to multiply by 1 minus sine. So then what you would have, when you multiply this, you need to be careful, because that minus sign there needs to be, you can do it 2 different ways. You can either distribute a -1 inside, or you can say it's a negative and then just multiply, or a subtraction and then just multiply that together. So it'd be 1 minus sine. You just got to be careful, because if you just write -1 minus sine, then you're not subtracting the whole thing like it wanted you to right there. Right, you're not allowed to just cancel these two out because of this minus sign. If it was a times, then sure, you'd be able to cross them out, you'd be done. That's not going to happen, though, because this is either going to be a plus or a minus every single time. So what we're going to have to do is kind of simplify some stuff. So go ahead and, what I would say is distribute that negative inside. You might have already done this on the first step. All right, so what I'm seeing, cosecant, we could probably change that. That'd probably be a good idea. So cosecant's 1 over sine. Another thing we could change, I'm thinking that cotangent. Since I don't see any other tangents running around, I'm going to change cotangent into cosine over sine. And this is actually going to get pretty ugly. Cosecant. All right, well, what we can do, we can go ahead and multiply those together. Put that over 1. When you multiply fractions, just go straight across. So that'd be cosine squared over sine. All right, what I'm seeing now, we can't really do any keep, switch, flip, or multiply by the reciprocal yet because this isn't a single fraction. We need to make it into a single fraction first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a common denominator between all of it. So this needs to be multiplied by sine. This one needs to be multiplied by sine. So we would have cosine squared. That would be minus sine. And that would be sine times sine is sine squared. And that's all going to be over sine because that's what the common denominator was. This is our big division bar, so I'm going to draw it even bigger so I know that this is the top and this is the bottom. Hopefully you don't need to consult your treasure map on this one, because we just use the sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. So this top would just simplify down to 1 minus sine x. All right, well, this is kind of similar to the one that we did like 2 examples ago, the very first one. Put that over 1 and then do your whole keep, switch, flip. First one is going to stay the same. Multiply by the reciprocal. That 1 minus sine, well, that's going to cancel. And then you're left with 1 over sine is 1 over sine. And then you are finished. All right, so that's it for today. Tomorrow you're going to start the homework. Keep working on it Tuesday, or start it on Tuesday. Keep working on it Wednesday, and then check your answers online Wednesday. You can either look it up, it's an app, or you can just go online. It's Slater. That's what you're looking for. You might have to type in something from your book. It pulls up the solutions manual basically, and it'll basically break it down just like this. Remember, there's way more than one way to do it. So if you look on Slater and they're doing something that looks a little confusing and you did it differently, as long as you wind up with that thing on the right side, you are good. So don't think that that's the only way to do it. There's way more than that. Make sure you wrote down the code, send that in to me so I know that you actually watched this video. It's somewhere inside there. Enjoy the rest of your day.